hold on for a second. Let me do this right now. It doesn't take long.
Okay.
It's going to be subject to July 22nd, just to make it sure.
Okay.
OCC, where you can find it later. And then I'll just attach it.
Is that the 14-page?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. That just cuts the people.
Yeah, I'm attaching it now.
Okay.
No attachment.
When other people came on,
Close it.
hi.
Hi, before.
Oh, sorry. And William Porter.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
I've been,
I'm Leslie.
hold on for a second. I've been requested to ask folks to video, to show their video if possible. Do you feel comfortable? It is being recorded through the Awkward YouTube.
Oh, it is?
Yes, it is.
YouTube? You mean publicly?
Publicly, yeah.
Why don't you start the recording?
Nothing.
That's good.
Thank you.
You don't feel comfortable, it's fine. But I asked.
If it's private with our group, I'm okay, but too much AI scraping.
We should talk about it. Not now. I just want to stay with the topic.
So are you saying, Glenn, that all this discussion tonight, or when you start the recording, will be on YouTube?
Yes, the recording is available for people who have access. People have access all around the world, so I've been told. So this is access for Faithist that is on Yako's YouTube channel. And this particular topic, this particular topic should be heard by Faithists because it deals with what we want to do as a board. So I'm all for it being have a wider circulation.
Well, so did this group agree to that?
It did before.
Or to
I asked,
be on YouTube?
I asked about a month ago when I was coach, and they did agree. It wasn't a top-down decision; it was a consensus. Okay, before I do the recording, let me see what we got. I do not see. Hold on. Oh, I do see. Okay.
Well, before you, Glenn, if I kind of come back on and I use my video thing, I don't have the thing that, will that put me on the call video wise, like on FaceTime?
I'm not an iPhone, but on the conference call itself, there is a button, this icon that looks like a video, like a camera. That means it's video. All you have to do is click on it. If you have
I've never seen it on my phone, so
should be
I don't know.
an icon that has a microphone, and next to that, it should have the camera icon.
I think that's if you go through the app.
But I'm going to try. I'll be back on.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Yeah, let me see. Oh yeah, who would like to? Oh, before that, Jane, was you able to? Did you see the file yet? The second file. Okay. Well, then, who would like to open up on the Rick Spirit?
Candy, I will.
Thank you, Candy. Okay, I don't see
We lost.
Amy.
I'm on a different phone number than you do, but it starts with 417.
It's 417, and let's see who, we got 9 now.
This is Joy and Joan, and we're having an awful lot of problems hearing people. So we're gonna hang up and try calling back in because we're just getting every other word.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thanks for letting us know that this is on public YouTube.
Yeah.
Glad if that's the case.
Okay, I'll be sure to make that announcement each time, but we've been doing that for about 3 weeks.
Oh, that's why I haven't been here.
It's Peter. It didn't work. I don't see anything. I think Michael I have to do something to get it hooked up, but I don't know how. I hooked, so.
Using an iPhone, what do you use, a phone or iPad?
Oh, well, right now, we'll do it another time.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, your voice and your presence is what's important. Candy has agreed, not yet, Candy, let me do the screenshot so I can take attendance. Who's here? Taking, let me write down the names. I can do that during the process. Okay. Oh, Celeste Joy, are you back?
Yeah, and it seems to be a little bit better connection.
Okay, let's start the recording then.
The recording has started.
Today is July 26, 2020, no, July 22nd, 2026. The time is 8:42 p.m. This is the Oahspe Conference Call 303. The topic is really twofold, but it's centered on one theme. It's about UFK properties, essentially, and it's going to go in more detail about the main topic. It's not the only topic, but the topic is it's titled Why America Needs an Intentional Community Model for Children's Residential Services. And there was an email sent out by me to the group. And what we wanted to do is to capture what we will be focused on today. And part of it, before we get into the main piece, just we'll read it straight up. Again, this is the email that we just sent out about 4:30 this afternoon. Welcome and thank you for your continued participation at our Wednesday assembly on July 22nd, 2026. The objective of our discussion this evening are multifaceted. First, we shall briefly examine the 50 UFA's 2 deeded properties in Kern, California, including initiatives to organize a volunteer crew this year, if possible, led by a fellow faith, to enhance the primary 5-acre parcel, as well as to explore the potential sale of UFK National adjacent 20-acre property to bolster the organization's financial stability and to financially support repairs on behalf of UFK California. Here we're talking about mainly the archives, not only, but mainly. Subsequently, we will provide an update on the missions of UFK California under President Peter. He will speak to that. And the primary aim of UFK California, as I understand it, that's correct, as I understand it, centers on the safest archives and library, absolutely essential. The Oahspe Conference Call, that's what's happening now. The website, along with initiatives such as the ordination, rites and ceremonies that Joan has been doing for decades, and et cetera. So it's more ceremonial, basically. Transit dresses, things of that nature. Additionally, we will discuss UFK National, or what's commonly known as UFK Utah, and that's Dr. Glenn Kendall. The primary aim of UFK National centers on fellowship development, membership growth, and creating opportunities for spiritual, workshop, community, and children residential services. We will consider how these efforts synergize to advance the work of the faith. Nonetheless, the primary objective of this evening's assembly is to read and discuss the report entitled Why American Needs and Intensive Communities Improve Residential Services. This document underpins the necessity for the survey and serves as its foundation. The survey will follow. Very important survey and its foundation. It is required reading to complete the survey. Okay, you must read this report to complete the survey. Anyway, the report provides background and context for investigating a new model of children's residential services inspired by the principles and key verses in Oahspe, particularly those in the Book of Jehovah's Kingdom on Earth and the Book of Shalom. So we want to integrate those aspects in Oahspe, primarily for those two books, and secular reality, what's happening on the ground affect truth. That's our way of doing the work, our way of doing the UFK board. The upcoming survey will collect recommendations, suggestions, observations, and comments from faithlists, students of Oahspe, and acquaintances from various backgrounds and professional experiences. The insight will inform future planning, refine the Youth Haven Public Village model, and help determine the strategic direction of both University of Faith of Cosmo and its partner organizations. At the core of this vision is its development of a community-centered model that integrates worship, meditation, fellowship, education, ecological kinship with nature, and compassionate service to vulnerable infants now, and older children, along with their families, within a carefully planned and accessible rural environment proximate to amenities and emergency services, which are critical, particularly for children and elderly whom we aim to serve. We are not leaving out the elderly or those who are legally impaired in terms of vision. We got to have room for everybody, no matter who they are, if they're faithlists. Our responsibility prior to 250, the year 250, that is in practice, is the next sub-band. That's critical for those who understand the faithless trajectory in Cosmo. The year 250 is critical. Include establishing the foundational, administrative, financial, ecological, and physical infrastructure to support these services with an emphasis on assuring the location, safety, and accessibility, which are identified as primary priorities. Additionally, the site must offer year-round services and access, privacy, housing for permanent residents, including up to or exceeding 10 faithlists and staff, and at least 15 child residents or enrollees. The site should accommodate agricultural, walking trails, education facilities, and future expansion to serve future generations. So, we can't do everything now. I'm up in age, Peter's up in age, Joan is, and others are. So we got to lay down a foundation for somebody to come behind us. So for future generation of faithlists and those entrusted to our care. Ultimately, this survey endeavors to determine whether this holistic vision, because we have to help now, this holistic vision, merging spirituality, community life, environmental kinship care. I like the term stewardship, or kinship, thanks to Celestial, and lifelong service to vulnerable children from infancy to adolescence is practical, sustainable, desirable for the future. You know, is this holistic approach, is it practical, sustainable, and desirable futures for the future? We trust that tonight's discussion will clarify the purpose of the report and survey, but also fostering thoughtful dialogue as we creatively consider how best to serve the Creator, each other, and the generation of student cause. Okay, so I think I jumped ahead. Annie, you can open up here, right?
I'm waiting to open.
That is my mistake, Maria. I should have read this afterwards. I was waiting for people on board, so please open up.
Okay, I'm here. I tried on the thing. I forget who it was. I think Ronnie was trying to, before you had taken over, before I had sworn, to set me up this post, but I saw my picture, but I've got to get some straight about how to just do it to get on. So I'll call Michael about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it now. Let's move on. It's 10 to 9, and Kenny is going to open up and honor the Great Spirit.
Yes. Everybody relax, take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Oh, great Jehovah, I source. Please bless this fellowship this evening. Inspire us to see the light that you would wish us to understand. Bless each and every one who has joined in physically on the conference call, and those angels and their guests that listen and inspire us. So be it, and amen.
Thank you, Kenny. Okay, we're going to have a short update. We're going to have Peter do an update along with Celeste Joy. Let me see. Damien, are you on here? Are you on this call, Damien? I think that's Damien. 216, is that Damien?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And we got, I asked Selah to join us. She can do a short update about Sacred Wind. So let's go first to Peter. Peter, a short update about.
Glenn, sorry to interrupt. Glenn, could you just send me the most recent one you just sent? I accidentally did something that disappeared. I archived it, but I don't know how to get it out.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying to fiddle around and get things.
Thanks. Okay, so Peter, can you do like a 5-minute update? And before that, I just want to say that Dana and I was talking. He just came back. He recently came back from Indian Current, and he wants to do some work. So yeah, and so that sparked this part of the meeting to see if we can organize a work crew. We have done this so many times in the past, and we should continue to do so. So without any further ado, Peter, if you can do, you and Celeste, give us a short update on income.
Well, I can't really say too much about it because I haven't been there for a while. So it really would be joy given the update on, we talked today, but we didn't really cover a lot other than just what we were going to talk about today, mostly what you were going to talk about. So I would
excuse me, Peter, before we turn it over to Celeste Joy, just explain to folks, get a lot of new people here, what's the mission? What's the objective of the UFK California?
Well, this is where the archives are. So it's to preserve the archives, our history since John Newborough as Oahspe Traithist. So it's very important that we preserve the archives, and Joy can go more into detail of work that's been done there. We have a building where the archives are. Any currents up in the desert, and it's pretty hot and the property has gotten run down, and we certainly need young people to come, younger than us. That is myself, Glenn, Joan, who would be able to put in time in helping fix up the property so it's in good shape. It's just deteriorated over the years. Now, UFK Utah is doing a lot what we did before, which was, helping to organize conferences and all that. We could also, at some point, still probably have some people come up and do some conferencing, but it is in the middle of the, I was going to say, is it the Mojave Desert? And it's hot. So we're trying to preserve the property, preserve the library. That's built up over the years. It's a lot of material, including personal writings of people who have added to the faithist movement since the beginning of faithism as Oahspe faithist, as John Newborough brought attention to the world about faithism. So that's really about what I can say.
Thank you. Great introduction. Celeste Joy, you want to add anything?
I think Peter covered it.
Okay, that's not right. Short and sweet. Damien, is there anything that you'd like to add?
I think Peter covered it pretty well. I will say that if anybody goes, I know going in the fall, is much better than going in the warmer months, as Celeste has said in the past, because after about 9 a.m., it really does start to get hot there. And so you become, dehydrated and depleted. So that's all. That's it.
Thank you. Before we go on, there's somebody new, I think it's Lamb. Lamb, can you introduce yourself, please?
It's just Leslie.
Oh, that's Leslie. Oh,
I changed it because I understand this is all on public YouTube now.
okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll just add one thing about Inyokern, since I visited there again. I mean, I visited over the years, of course, but I just wonder, about people going there. Joy, where might people stay at this point nowadays? If they arrange to go, and does that mean just a temporary thing, or what is UFK open to?
Since I just found out we were gonna talk about this about a little while ago, I'm not really, I don't have a plan. Damien, I think maybe has a plan, and I want to support that plan. And I think it's still in the process of being developed. When Damien was here, he was here for about a week, and he did a tremendous amount of cleaning. And the main house, which is where Joan and I lived, is really kind of in a condemned almost state. It's really not, it needs to have more work before it would really be safe for someone to stay in, unless they understood what they were getting themselves into. There's one trailer that Joshua was able to get the air conditioning worked in. I would hope that people would come in the fall or the spring, because those are what's called the shoulder seasons. So it's not super cold and it's not super hot, because those are our two seasons, is super cold and super hot. And then, October to the end of November, and March to sometimes May. Those are the two, we've got like a couple of months window on either side of, summer and winter that are, where you have nice days. So there's one trailer that has electricity. It does not have plumbing. It has water, it has water access, but it doesn't have any kind of a sewer system anymore. And, so someone who, if they were gonna stay there, they need to understand, what that entailed. Because you're talking about camping, it's really a camping kind of a lifestyle. There is the cargo unit that we started remodeling back during COVID, that we never finished. That I did live in part of it for a while, and I put stuff in there, too much stuff, and Damien helped me figure that out. And, potentially, several people could stay in there during the shoulder season or the winter. But the toilet, it does not have running water. It does have a bucket toilet. So that's where you take the bucket and you dump it every day into the compost, the food compost. So that's people are willing to do that. That's the way it is right now.
Okay.
We need workers, and a lot of us aren't workers. A lot of us have health problems and we're older, and I don't really know how we're gonna get around that.
Well,
Yeah, I did. I was just going, go ahead.
One thing that I took the time to do there, I know people, we don't have a lot of money and things of that nature, but there are a couple of reasonably priced motels in Ridgecrest, which is not far from the property. And that's kind of like where I stayed while I was there. And that's for people who, have some health conditions and who may only be there for 3 or 4 days, but you can get a decent hotel room for like $45 a day. I know that's still money, but it's an option as opposed to everybody trying to stay on the land when the facilities are not, up and running to where they need to be for, many people to stay there. So, maybe people can couple up to a room or something like that at a hotel if you're interested in going. I have plans that I have discussed with Celeste, and but my goal is to get back here and after my semester of college to continue to clean up work there. So I don't know what anybody else wants to do, but that's what I did. So that's
We thank Silas will also give us an update about Sacred West, a short one, but before that, just and I'm gonna have to give something about U of K national as it relates to income. But before that, I just want to say that we need to have a commitment of people, not now, just send the names to me or to Celeste Joy, who we can help with the planning. We gotta have a budget, you know. I stay in a trailer, we can rent trailers, have it go on site, we can rent, those, I forgot what they call it, this slipped my mind, where you have the portable toilets that can be brought in. We see it at construction sites, things of that nature. So we just have to plan it out. I just want folks to have overview of that we want to care for the archives, and at least Damien has stepped forward to provide that assistance. So that being said, Taylor, can you just give a short overview about Sacred Winds, please?
Let's see, but I can't find it, so let's check it. So a short update would be pretty normal stuff, just working on the gardens and spending a lot of time with fire maintenance the best I can, sweeping up pine leaves and making sure there's nothing leaf structures. Yeah, the most exciting thing that I found recently is the water rights. I was looking up water rights in the area, and I found the one for here. It's from like 1896. It's like one of the oldest ones in Jackson County, and it's for a ridiculous amount of water flow. Like if we wanted to, at some point to update the hydro to fit thousands of people, it would be totally likely. So, and then going off of that, I've been doing a little bit of research on just kind of like the geology and the rocks and stuff around here, and also I've noticed a bit of changing in the land. I think it's from the logging maybe, but there's definitely been some changes like cracks and just changes going on. But yeah, it's about it for an update. Just cleaning, gardening, and lots of raking, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. Short and sweet, appreciate it. Thank you. For me, in terms of UFA National at Indian, we have the board, is the we, has property up 20 acres, it's just pure dirt. We have one little slab of building there, part of the building. What we want to do there was, Celeste and I have talked about, and so Peter, of course, is that probably going to go up for sale. We're going to do what's the acronym of GIVE, or you give, United Green Intentional Village. We're going to do that there. But this was right before COVID, so we got burnt with COVID. With Sacred Winds, it doesn't make sense. So what we want to do, what we have done is put it on sale, if we can get at least the money that we paid for it, would be great. Some of those funds will be used to help build up the 5 acres, structures. Dave and I have been talking about it in some detail. We'll price it out and all that and see what the budget is. Carry over for Celeste Joy's review. I want to take as much work from as possible and just have it come in on like the final details and see if it works and she agrees with it, and then we can move forward. So that's the general plan. The U of K national mission is pretty much what I said in the reading and what Peter talked about. We move to try to organize students of the Oahspe faiths and conferences and services, worship, and we do a networking. There was a point in time where we used to have conferences every 2 to 3 years planned for decades. When COVID hit, that stopped. And so we reconstitute that, but in a different way. We just need some time. So that's what's going on with U of K California. I just want to underline, stress, bold state that we cannot allow the archives to fall apart. We gotta have, this is our history, okay? So we gotta take care of it. Okay, that being said, let's move on to the report. The time is 9:10. We can have maybe 5 minutes of Q&A if anybody having questions before we move into the next topic. Any questions or comments?
This is Leslie. I'll just add that when I was there in May and also the year before, I just stayed in motels in Ridgecrest, which is about 10 miles from Inyokern and the property. And there's all kinds of different price motels. When was Damien there? Damien?
He was here about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Yeah, I was there about 2 weeks ago.
How did you travel there? I'm curious.
I flew into Las Vegas and rented a car and drove to Inyokern. That's what I did.
Okay.
And I gotta tell you, it was a beautiful trip. Never seen so much desert before in my life, but it was really nice. Nice travel. So yeah.
Okay, let's move on so we can have.
Well, I have a couple comments and questions.
That's handy.
Of course, Wes and I only went in 1999 to that site in California, and Sister Cora was our host. So, has anybody checked to see if there's any Airbnb in the area for visitors?
Well, let's put that down as something to do. So that's a good idea. We need to have a plan. This is not the planning stage now. We need to have a plan because every time I went there, I always stayed on site. In one of the trailers, I just hunkered down. And it depends on the budget. We can have trailers on site, have portable parties on site, and do what we ever can. Order the materials beforehand. We coordinated with Damien and others, have it on site so we know what we got to do, and to because there is infrastructure on the house that's no longer livable. There's running water. There's power going into the unit, so there's things that we have to do to figure it all out. People did this for centuries, so we can do it now. It's just a matter of putting forth our effort and thinking creative juices to flow and figuring out the solution.
Well, you and Michael and others have visited my acreage here in the Ozarks, and I had a gentleman who stayed here for 5 years in a camper without running water, etc. And he did a proper compost toilet, and if you do it properly, it doesn't stink, and you can then put it in your compost pile. That worked out, and and then you had a shower where you catch water off rainwater off the roof and have a shower. So and our family and kids went camping a lot. I still have my propane canisters in my camp, ovens and stoves and tents and things. But I certainly do agree that you don't want to go there in the summertime. But it's an interesting.
Thank you. That's
it.
14 now. Let's move on so we can get through this. This is so why America needs an intentional community model for children's residential services. There are charts, but this opening, I'm just going to ask Jane if she had that, read it, but right below that title, the subtitle is The Universal Faith of Cosmos, UFK, constitute the M Council, whereas its secular counterpart functions as the Outer Council. And this is going to be explained. So Shane, if you can pick it up up into the relevant Oahspe code, so I'll read that in short form.
Okay, this, okay, I see, so in purple, that part, starting with that, the universal faith is the cosmos, in brackets, UFK constitutes the inner council, whereas its secular counterpart functions as the outer council. The preceding statement regarding the inner and outer councils is sourced from, in quote, more of the Oahspe, unquote, by Jim Dennis. The primary purpose of this report is to establish the foundation for the subsequent survey. Additionally, this report functions as an essential preparatory document to facilitate a comprehensive understanding of the necessity for a novel model of children's residential services. The upcoming survey aims to gather insights and perspectives from faces categorized into distinct groups, Oahspe students and guests with diverse backgrounds and expertise. The recommendations, suggestions, responses, and comments will be instrumental in shaping the future direction, priorities, and implementation strategies of the Universal Basis Academy and its partner, the New Haven Public Eco Village registered model. The insights gained will inform service refinement, model development, future planning, service scope, organization policies, and the creation of demonstration communities dedicated to worshiping the Creator and supporting vulnerable children and families. The primary objective of this initiative is to establish a community-centered framework complemented by a worship and meditation center in a rural setting close to emergency services, agencies, and local amenities. I hear my own echo. Let me turn my volume down even further. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, still here.
Okay. In the Creator's name, this setting is designed to seamlessly integrate the natural environment as a crucial component of healing, education, sustained community engagement, and spirituality. The results of the forthcoming survey can help illuminate the level of interest in the importance of our community having forests, greens, orchards, gardens, edible landscapes, wildlife habitat, and sustainable living practices in a holistic approach to human well-being, encompassing retreat services, conferences, worship, rites, ceremonies, and meditation. Instead of operating solely as a residential program, the community is envisioned as a vibrant, intentional residential community where individuals across generations gather to harmonize the most exemplary aspects of spiritual, ethical, and secular services, thereby fostering collective development. The survey will also inform the final determination regarding the mission's relocation and long-term development trajectory. As envisioned, the intentional community is to unite on a single parcel of land to honor the Creator, engage in worship, fellowship, education, and consultation, provide residential services, support ecological restoration, and participate in public service and charitable endeavors. To accomplish these objectives responsibly, the community requires sufficient land to conserve natural resources, protect privacy, accommodate housing and agricultural activities, establish walking trails and educational facilities, and facilitate future expansion, as well as to provide residency for succeeding generations of faiths, thereby paying homage to the Great Spirit. While roughly 20 acres may meet the community's fundamental needs, a property of 80 acres or more would more effectively support the long-term vision by preserving the land's rural character and providing ample space for future generations. Ultimately, the survey aims to assess whether this integrated vision, comprising spirituality, community, participation, service to vulnerable children, and kinship with the natural environment within a deliberately designed rural context, serves as a viable, sustainable, and desirable pathway forward as outlined in Oahspe. The following report emphasizes the imperative to conduct this survey globally, particularly given the escalating crisis affecting children worldwide. In the United States, initiatives aimed at preserving and strengthening families have persistently failed to meet their intended objectives, despite decades of federal and state reform. Currently, few innovative, community-oriented models have been proposed as supplementary systems to traditional foster care and associated services. Models explicitly crafted to address systemic deficiencies that affect children through encountered trauma, inadequate community resources, unstable placement, and ineffective support services. The development of such a model is supported by several significant passages in Oahspe. One passage supports churches serving as consultation chambers dedicated to alleviating poverty, while another highlights the obligation to care for orphans, interpreted in the current context to encompass children experiencing homelessness, children in foster care, and other impoverished or vulnerable youth. The core guiding principle in Oahspe further affirms, quote, "I labor not so much to convert adults as to prepare the minds of the young," end quote.
Thank you. I'll read a few of these quotes and then James will pick it up from there. Relevant Oahspe quotes. The table below aims to illustrate a progression from the conventional stage of social and education services in general society towards a phase that reflects key related verses in Oahspe, thereby laying the foundation for a future shalom. Commencing now, the foundation was being commenced with anticipated initiation around the year 2050. Several verses may substantiate this vision. The Book of Judgment, chapter 28, verse 9 through 12. Behold, what good work we have done. Show us that ye measure not as God measures. For it is not sufficient that you feed and clothe the little ones, in brackets, those under 14, but even those under 18 by legal standards, close brackets. But ye shall teach them a trade, an occupation, and give them learning, so that when they are grown, they can sustain themselves. But even yet, your work is not sufficed. But ye shall so provide them, they will not only be self-supporting, but that they shall be willing and capable of rescuing others as they were rescued. After this, okay, something's going on there. Yeah, mute yourself, please. After this, ye shall see to it that all things are so provided that after your death, your institution be not liable to fall into disuse or perversion. The marching orders is clear from that few verses in the Book of Judgment. We go on. Then the God of Jehovah has said in the Book of Judgment, chapter 38, verse 2, I labor not so much to convert adults as to prepare the minds of the young. Partially, these celestial objectives are for the following purpose on earth. Book of Jehovah, Kingdom on Earth, chapter 9. The verse is missing. To simply teach the child, to simply teach the child the botany and other lessons and practice without reference to the spirituality that underlieth all things, all living things, would have little effect in turning the child's thoughts to his own life and growth in spirit. And who has Jehovah singled out? Oahspe mandates, Book of Shalom, chapter 3, verse 78, 77 to 79, page 830 in Palm edition. Now behold, there are thousands of fatherless and destitute children in us. These are cheaper than calves and young goats, and they may be raised to be more benefit to themselves and to the state. Who then is ready to join in this labor without money and without price, devoting his or her life to training them up to practical knowledge. The progress is, so there's arrows, but it goes from foster care, which is very good model in terms of policy. It's very different from shelters, so it's strong in that case. It goes from foster care to intentional communities, to eco-village, to shalom intentional communities and incorporation. And then it goes to service delivery, shared living, integrated civilization, and shalom societies worldwide. This is a flow. It will happen maybe over hundreds of years, but always you got to start somewhere. Thus, the public eco-village model is not simply a description of a housing model. It describes an entire precursor of shalom in which child development community, ecology, economics, spirituality, and lifelong belonging reinforce one another as the organizational gateway to shalom on earth. And then we got some charts. So let me continue with the charts. So these are the progressive charts to shalom. The headings are as follows. There's 4 of them. One is feature. One is the standard foster care homeless programs and services. The third column is intentional communities and home villages. And the 4th is youth haven of the village model. So core principles. Under the foster care, etc., it states safety, healing, stabilization, and permanency, providing immediate protection and support while fostering long-term healing, stability, permanency, and lasting belonging for vulnerable children and families. That's what they try to do. An intentional community, in terms of core principles, includes shared community. People voluntarily live together around common values and mutual responsibility. Under the youth haven, which again is the outer council of UFK, it's the outer council of UFK, according to the dual councils from Jim Dennon. Sustainability, public living, integrating sustainable living, human flourishing, community, spirituality, and the natural world into a unified way of life that serves present and future generations. Living arrangements. Under foster care, separate apartments, scattered site housing, or institutional site shelters, settings. With intentional communities, shared homes, clustered housing, or co-housing, or intergenerational neighbors. It's usually all membership, however, really no public service. Under youth haven, staff, volunteers, and participants live and work within a sustainable green community integrated with forests, streams, orchard gardens, and other edible landscape. Participants receive lifelong coaching, that coaching that stops when you are emancipated, like foster care, like 18, they literally kick them out. Participants receive lifelong coaching, and qualified individuals may earn long-term living rights within the community. The future holding of shalom from within. Sustainability and ecological lifestyle. Under foster care and homeless programs, sustainability efforts often emphasize the 3 R's. Reduce, reuse, and recycle, with limited integration into daily living. Under intensive communities, depending upon the community's mission, sustainable living practices are intentionally incorporated into everyday life. Under the youth haven model, residential or public eco, that's the real model. Youth haven is just an example of a public eco model. Residents cultivate a deeper respect for the biocentric commonwealth of nature and its diverse biomes. Recognizing humanity as part of an interconnected community of living organisms and natural systems, environmental kinship, financial stewardship, asset building, and intergenerational wealth creation are integrated into community life. And wealth is emphasized, not in terms of dollars, but in terms of what are needed to sustain the quality of life, like good water, rich soil. That's wealth. Okay, staff roles. Under the standard foster care homeless programs and services, shift workers, clinical professionals, case managers, and off-site administrators provide service within a defined organizational roles. With the intensive community, live-in and other members, volunteers, house partners, mentors, or neighbors share responsibility for life among themselves, not just the public. The youth haven, the public eco model, staff members model and cultivate character, virtues, and healthy social norms while integrating ecological kinship, trauma-informed care, and community living into daily practice and living on site. Core dynamics. Professional to client relationship guided by organizational policies, service and plans, and timelines. That's under the standard foster care. Under intensive communities, peer-supported or family-style relationship emphasizing mutual responsibility, belonging, and long-term support. That's among the members. The public eco-village model integrates professional services like foster care with community living while adding an intentional emphasis on ecosophy. Ecosophy is deep ecology. And biophilia means love of nature, restorative living, and spiritual development. Community structure. Under foster care, primarily emphasizes individual independence and self-sufficiency. Under intensive community, primarily emphasizes shared responsibility among members. The public eco-village model promotes the 4 C's of relationship, compatibility, cooperation, and compassion, while fostering harmony among children, adults, community members, future generations, and the natural world. The intensive community went on to say, primary emphasizes shared responsibility, cooperation, and collective living. Again, I want to remember this, illustrative alignment with faith's values. This is my general assessment, if you will. With standard foster care homeless services is about 46% in line with the Oahspe. Intensive communities and village is pretty much 76% aligned. And with the public eco-village model is up to 96% aligned. So you see there's a progression. It could be tested out, but it could also be researched to have a deeper understanding. In terms of a shalom, the foster care is not applicable. Intensive communities is not applicable to shalom. And to a public eco-village, it is very much applicable. And in the asterisk for the public eco-village model, public eco-village, the youth haven public eco-village model is a registered model now. And it integrates trauma-informed support. The humacy model, is it combines belonging to culture with character development. Back in the day, you used to get back in the 1950s, they used to have your report card in school, your character development. They stopped. They also stopped civic teaching, which is really a big blow. Well, that was done by design. So let me continue. Environmental wellness, restorative living, sustainable intentional community design into a single living environment that benefits children, families, communities, future generations, and the natural world, which was stated. And then there was, in terms of these percentage, it's pretty much what I just said. It's not based on empirical data. It's 46, 76, and 96. It's just a general trend to get a sense about it all. Okay, we're up to page 7. Oh, that's good. Okay, now we go 8. The tofu of the presentation. Jane, do you mind picking it up, or someone else? It starts with around the world. You see the nice.
Yeah.
Just a second. Let me show this for those on YouTube. This is an image of a symbol that has the greatest symbol, the greatest name. It says Jehovah speaks to one of his sons. And the quote is, I labor not so much to convert adults as to prepare the minds of the young. And it has this as a guiding principle. So if nobody else wants to beat Jane to reading, it's all yours, Jane.
Glenn, can you put that back up? I was trying to make a screenshot of it and it slid away. Thanks. Uh-oh, now I lost the document.
I can send it to you. You can get a copy of this, Sarah Sue.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So whoever wants to read, please do so.
I'm not hearing anybody else. I'm rolling.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay. Around the world, millions of children experience violence, abuse, neglect, exploitation, trafficking, homelessness, institutional care, and preventable death. An estimated 4.8 million children under age 5 die each year, while millions more live in orphanages, residential institutions, refugee camps, or on the street. Countless others are exposed to armed conflict, child labor, and human trafficking, often with lifelong consequences. Although the United States possesses substantially greater financial institutional resources than most nations,
Just a
many of the
second.
same
And just, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just don't read the footnote, but just say that it's footnoted, so that the folks who do not have the copy before them, and for the record, since it's being recorded, they can know that these data points are footnoted. There's references and citation. Please continue.
Okay, like for example, you're saying from countless to the last word evidence, that's the footnote itself, is it?
Yeah, you'll see a number in small
I see the
font.
number. Yeah.
Small, that would be like, for instance, the first one was that says that says residential institutions or on the streets. That's a footnote. You don't have to read the footnote, but just let them know it's
Okay.
footnote.
Okay, I just go to the next paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay. In the United States, hundreds of thousands of children enter foster care annually, while millions face severe challenges long before reaching adulthood. In 2024, state child protective services agencies identified approximately 532,000 children as victims of abuse or neglect and reported 410,676 individuals as perpetrators of child maltreatment. Bracket U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 2026, end bracket. During the same year, 20,050 infants died before reaching their first birthday. And there's a footnote. So, it has like 2 footnotes, right? So, then I go to the next paragraph, right?
You just continue reading.
Okay. Over 1 million students leave high school without graduating every year.
Finish it. Each year approximately 4,000. Just continue to read after the first birthday.
Okay, over 4,000, the 4,500, oh yeah, I see. Each year, approximately 4,500 children, is that what you're talking?
Yes.
And adolescents die from firearm-related injuries in the United States. And then I skipped down at that point.
No, reading. Just say footnote.
Okay. Footnote. Okay. While many thousands more survive non-fatal gunshot wounds requiring emergency medical treatment, bracket, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, square bracket, CDC, and square bracket, 2026, end bracket. Okay, during 2024, an estimated 1,038,100 clinician-provided abortions were performed in the United States. Bracket, that's Master Institute 2025, end bracket. Over 1 million students leave high school without graduating every year. Hundreds of thousands of children, even from the same cohort group noted above, also experience homelessness, run away from home or foster care, become victims of human trafficking, or enter the juvenile justice system, often later transitioning into the adult criminal system. Despite decades of federal efforts aimed at strengthening families, preserving relationships, and improving child welfare, many children face repeated replacement disruptions, educational instability, social isolation, and uncertain paths into adulthood. Each year, thousands leave foster care without a permanent family or support system, increasing their risk of homelessness, unemployment, poverty, incarceration, health issues, and limited future opportunities. Two particularly devastating aspects of the harm experienced by America's children and adolescents can't be overlooked. First, the U.S. ranks embarrassingly 33rd among 38 developed or wealthiest Western countries in terms of infant mortality rates. And there's a footnote. The second is the prevalence of violent and self-inflicted death. Suicide was the second leading cause of death in 2023 among young people ages 10 to 14 and 15 to 24. That's basically from 10 to 24, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In many adolescent age groups, suicide claims more young lives than homicide, underscoring the profound mental health challenges facing today's youth. Together with child abuse, neglect, firearm violence, and accidental injuries, these preventable deaths represent an immense human tragedy for families and communities, and highlight the urgent need for earlier intervention, stronger support systems, and more comprehensive approaches to child well-being. Therefore, as the Oahspe guides us, which is worth repeating, quote, better is it that ye provide a way unto 10 fatherless children than for 40 people that are grown. ... For it is not sufficient that ye feed and clothe little ones, but that ye teach them a trade, an occupation, and give them learning, so that when they are grown, they can sustain themselves. But even yet, your work is not the highest, but ye shall so provide them. They will not only be self-supporting, but that they shall be willing and capable of rescuing others as they were rescued. Then we have the harm profile of American children. Want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. The harm profile of American children. understanding the pathway from childhood adversity to adult outcomes. 1. Children in the general population. Millions of children experience preventable harm before government intervention. Point 1, okay, the first point, child poverty. As indicated above, approximately 10 to 13 million U.S. children live in poverty each year, increasing risk for poor health, educational failure, and homelessness. Next point, child abuse and neglect. More than 500,000 children are confirmed victims of abuse or neglect annually, after 4.4 million reports involving nearly 7.8 million children are investigated. The next point, child death and violence. Approximately 1,773 children die each year from abuse or neglect, while firearms remain among the leading causes of death for children and adolescents. Summary. Before many children ever enter foster care, millions are exposed to poverty, violence, abuse, neglect, and other adverse childhood experiences that can permanently alter healthy development. 2, the topic here is children under state care. Hundreds of thousands of children become government's direct responsibility. First point, Child Protective Services. As noted above, nearly 7 million children are the subject of CPS investigations annually. Next point, foster care. Review of research findings clearly shows that more than 329,000 children live in foster care each year, with thousands residing in congregate care or residential treatment facilities. Next point is juvenile justice. Approximately 29,000 youth are confined in juvenile residential placement facilities across the United States on any given day. And there's a footnote for that. Summary. When families cannot safely care for children, the government assumes legal responsibility. These youth often experience multiple placements, disrupted education, and continued exposure to trauma. 3, the heading is harm while under state care. Removal from home does not always eliminate risk. Maltreatment in foster care. Thousands of children experience abuse or neglect while under state supervision, and federal agencies monitor maltreatment occurring in foster care as a national safety indicator. Placement instability. Many foster youth experience multiple placements, disrupting education, relationships, and emotional development. Mortality. Research suggests children in foster care have an approximately 40% higher overall mortality rate than children in the general population, reflecting deaths from illness, accidents, suicide, homicide, and other causes. Summary. Although foster care protects many children from immediate danger, some continue to experience abuse, instability, educational disruption, trafficking risk, and there's a what do you call it, a note for that, and elevated mortality while under state care. Number 4, racial breakdown. Review of the related literature points out that although Black children constitute only about 14% of the U.S. child population, they account for approximately 23% of children in foster care, about 40% of youth in juvenile residential placement, and nearly 40% of youth experiencing homelessness, and roughly 1/2 of Job Corps participants, demonstrating substantial overrepresentation across multiple child serving systems. 5. Harm to youth transitioning from state care. Aging out of foster care often leads to adulthood without family support. Housing. Approximately 1 in 5 to 1 in 3 former foster youth experience homelessness or housing instability by age 21. Education and employment. Many youth fail to complete high school on time. Relatively few graduate from college, and unemployment rates remain significantly higher than those of their peers. Justice system. Approximately 1 in 4 former foster youth reports incarceration by early adulthood, illustrating the well-documented foster care to prison pipeline. Summary. Without permanent family connection and effective transition support, many young adults leaving foster care face homelessness, unemployment, poverty, untreated trauma, and involvement with the criminal justice system. Meanwhile, Black youth can be as much as 3.5 times their population share. 6. The long-term social cost. Childhood adversity creates lifelong human and economic costs. Youth incarceration. The average annual expenditure for confining a single youth in a juvenile correctional facility amounts to approximately $214,620. What is that? Did I read that right? There's a comment there. Okay, that's a comment. That's a sentence. Okay. Although expenditures vary significantly across jurisdictions, collectively, states spend billions of dollars annually operating juvenile detention and correctional facilities. And there's a footnote to that. Meanwhile, Oahspe cautions, and this evidence affirms, that children may hold greater value to the state than to benefiting society at large. Nonetheless, the public eco-village is designed to do the very opposite, fostering the development of mature, ethical, and responsible youth. Educational loss. Each high school dropout is estimated to cost society approximately $272,000 over their lifetime due to lost earnings, reduced economic productivity, lower tax contributions, and increased public expenditures. And there's a footnote there. Adverse childhood experiences, bracket ACE, and bracket, impose an estimated lifetime economic burden of approximately $2.4 million per affected individual and contribute to an annual society cost exceeding $14 billion in the United States through increased healthcare spending, lost productivity, and premature mortality. And there's a footnote.
Wait a second, just a second. On that footnote, this is coming from the economic burden of health conditions associated with adverse childhood experience. This is JAMA. JAMA is a highly professional, peer-reviewed journal. So this is strong support. Okay, that's one clarify. Continue, please, Lady.
Okay, summary. The cumulative effects of childhood adversity extend far beyond childhood. Society bears enormous financial costs through homelessness, public assistance, healthcare, incarceration, reduced workforce participation, and premature mortality, while children lose opportunities to reach their full potential. I don't quite understand that. It's thick, and then it says F, and then I. Okay, anyway, I'll just continue. Number 6, basically. Okay. Thick maybe then. I'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, 6. Premature death and abortion. Infant mortality. Approximately 20,050 infants die before reaching their first birthday in the United States each year. Many of these deaths are associated with conditions that are potentially preventable or treatable through improved prenatal care, maternal health, safe sleep practices, timely medical intervention, and equitable access to quality health care. And there's a footnote for that. Child maltreatment and firearm deaths. In 2024, an estimated 1,773 children died from abuse or neglect in this apartment in the United States. In addition, approximately 4,500 children and adolescents die from firearm-related injuries in a typical recent year. And there's a footnote, including homicides, suicides, and unintentional shootings, while thousands more survived non-fatal gunshot wounds. Youth suicide. In 2023, suicide was the second leading cause of death among young people ages 10 to 14 and 15 to 24 in the United States. Suicide and homicide remain 2 of the leading causes of death for adolescents and young adults, although their relative rankings vary by age group and over time. And there's a difference. Abortion. The Guttmacher Institute estimates that approximately 1.04 million clinician-provided abortions occurred in the United States in 2024, substantially exceeding the 613,383 abortions reported by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in brackets CDC and brackets, for 2022. The difference largely reflects CDC's reliance on voluntary reporting from participating jurisdictions, whereas Guttmacher collects data directly from abortion providers and includes states that do not report to CDC, such as California, Maryland, New Hampshire, and New Jersey. And footnote. Summary. Premature death represents the most devastating consequence of childhood adversity. Whether resulting from abuse, neglect, violence, suicide, firearm injuries, or preventable health conditions, these deaths reflect profound failures across families, communities, healthcare, educational, and public support systems. Every preventable death represents not only a lost child, but also the loss of a future parent, community member, leader, innovator, or caregiver whose life and potential were never fully realized.
Hey, thank you.
Conclusion. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's almost 10. I think it'd be wise to finish this if you guys don't mind. I don't see any exceptions. If you can, just leave, but I think it's good just to finish it. So Shane, it's over at 10, so if you have to go, you have to go, that's fine. But if you want to stay, we're going to continue. So Jane, can you finish with the conclusion?
Sure. Conclusion. Although federal child welfare policy increasingly emphasizes family preservation, many communities continue to lack the affordable housing, accessible healthcare, quality education, stable employment, and neighborhood support systems necessary to help families remain safely together. Consequently, the child welfare system often becomes the final public response after multiple social institutions have already failed to prevent family instability and child maltreatment. The Youth Haven Public Eco-Village registered model, implemented through United Green Intentional Village, in bracket, you give, all in caps and periods, end bracket, was developed as an integrated response to these interconnected challenges. Rather than relying solely on traditional foster homes or institutional group care, the model envisions a small, intentional, trauma-informed community where children and youth can experience long-term belonging, stable relationships, educational opportunity, life skills development, environmental stewardship, meaningful work, and lasting community connections. By integrating the Humacy model, trauma-informed residential support model, environmental wellness restorative living program, and an edible landscape system, the Youth Haven Public Eco-Village registered model seeks to replace cycles of instability within a culture of belonging, resilience, compassion, personal responsibility, and hope. A distinctive attribute of the Youth Haven Public Eco-Village model is its dedication to lifelong community integration. Furthermore, the Youth Haven Public Eco-Village model does not merely offer services to children. It is constructed on the premise that children are essential members of a thriving community whose well-being is intrinsically linked to that of adults, future generations, and the natural environment. Unlike many residential programs that terminate when a youth reaches adulthood or when services conclude, this model is designed to cultivate enduring relationships and ongoing opportunities for engagement within the intentional community throughout their lifetime. Through YouGive, qualified participants who opt to maintain their connection may be granted lifelong residence rights within the community, thereby diminishing the risk of homelessness, chronic isolation, and recurrent social displacement. The Public Eco-Village model provides the green, sustainable child development and theoretical framework for YouGive. Developed from Dr. Glenn Kendall's 1914 doctoral research.
2014.
23, they say 19 home, my brain is, okay. Doctoral research, the model emerged through a participatory focus group conducted at Lighthouse Youth and Family Services in Cincinnati, Ohio, involving former foster youth, former runaway youth, and youth experiencing homelessness. Participants consistently envisioned a community that extended beyond temporary housing to provide enduring belonging, meaningful work, healthy relationships, opportunities for personal growth, and a restorative connection with nature. Their collective experiences and recommendations became the foundation of the Public Eco-Village model, which has since been incorporated into the registered Youth Haven Public Eco-Village framework. The evidence presented throughout this report suggests that childhood adversity is not primarily the result of isolated individual failures, but of interconnected failures across families, communities, institutions, and public systems. Consequently, effective solutions must likewise be comprehensive, community-based, and designed to provide support not only during childhood, but also throughout the transition to adulthood and beyond. This report does not merely advocate for foster care and shelter reform. It also presents a statement of philosophy and policy at the local service level. Its central premise is that children require not only protection, but also a strong sense of belonging, and that communities should be intentionally designed to provide enduring relationships, a healthy connection with the natural world, meaningful work, education, kinship with nature, and support across generations. The Youth Haven Public Eco-Village model is designed to help prevent and interrupt the cycle of childhood adversity through lifelong community belonging, stable relationships, and continuing opportunities for personal growth and service. This broader vision extends beyond traditional child welfare reform and provides both readers and faces with a distinctive framework directly tied to the Youth Haven Public Eco-Village model. The statistics presented throughout this report demonstrate that challenges facing vulnerable children are not the result of a single problem, but of interconnected systems of adversity. The Youth Haven Public Eco-Village model was developed to address these interconnected challenges through an equally integrated, long-term, community-based solution. Beyond providing a safe and restorative environment during childhood, the model seeks to ensure that qualified graduates of the United Green Intentional Village have access to community affiliation and lifetime coaching, extending support not only to themselves, but, when desired, to future generations of their families. In doing so, the model aims to replace cycles of instability, isolation, and intergenerational homelessness and adversity with enduring relationships, lifelong belonging, and opportunities for continuous personal growth and community contribution. To our knowledge, and as Dr. Kendall's PhD study shows, no existing child welfare model integrates lifelong community belonging, lifetime coaching, environmental restoration, trauma-informed care, normative culture, and intergenerational support into a single comprehensive framework. The model's unifying principle, addressing childhood adversity through lifelong community belonging.
Excellent reading. Thank you, Jane. That concludes the report. I know we've been a little over. All those on this call, you can get a copy of this report. That's fine. But you can also get to participate in the survey. So instead of asking who wants to, I'll ask in reverse, who doesn't want to? Although there's certain folks on the call that I was hoping would want to participate because they were long-standing as Oahspe Conference Call members or as RFK members, that means Restoration of Faith members, and of course, Universal Faith members, because we need your input. So if anybody who doesn't want to participate, please let me know so I don't have to send you the survey. So I would assume your silence would mean yes. It is designed to have a participation through the mail, unless I can figure out how to do it electronically where it doesn't get sent to all different places, because I need tight control. Everyone would have what's called a survey ID number, so that your confidentiality would be honored and respected. And it's a lot of data. It's going to take a lot of work to compile it, but this is what's required. It's required to do good works. To me, it's good works. So I was hoping that those who want to participate can send me your mailing address, so that I can send you in the mail the survey, and you will have a pre-post envelope to send the survey back. And that will populate it up into some kind of data format, either Excel or Google form, or even SurveyMonkey, if I can get a free version. And I would just, for those on the call, I would just reach out to you individually as a follow-up if you want to see this, if you call the service and your mailing address or something along those lines. I will open it up for questions and comments.
I do have a question, Glenn. Does somebody else? This is Sarah Sue.
Yeah.
So is this is in deference to as a separate project, or is it a separate project from the community in Oregon?
YouGive started out back in 2019, I believe. Yeah, it was before the COVID, but we couldn't do it in anytime. And then COVID started, all that. Sacred Winds is something that came to us as a gift. So YouGive can be done at Sacred Winds or be done someplace else. That's a question that the board would have to answer, and the community would be able to propose. We are making recommendations and suggestions. It could be at Sacred Winds, it could not be at Sacred Winds. In other words, we use the funding from Sacred Winds to purchase another property that is more conducive if the results come back this way. And if we do sell, we're not really selling, it's relocating the mission so we can do the mission. There will be everyone who's working hard at Sacred Winds will be duly compensated. And actually, there's some other caveats that may even work out better, since there is no faith-based management presence at Sacred Winds. It's still very scattered. But there may be people in the Oregon areas who would say, okay, we'd love to take over this property. And I said, oh, fine. And I said, we have an excellent person who can manage the property because she knows the property and she can assist you. There are absolutely no plans at all, as long as I'm president, anyway, to try to sell the property to some logging interest or somebody just going to raise the buildings if we have that as a conclusion. So, my friend, I'll be quiet in a second, but my mentor, who was David Albert, he explained he was the organization development specialist, and I followed his principle. Damien, I think that's you, that a rising tide lifts all ships. Nobody should be left behind. A rising tide is all ships. So everybody should be. We couldn't say that. Okay, question, comment?
Yeah, okay, so what I see, my feedback is I see two different projects. because I feel that Sacred Winds is separate. It is not a good place for a foster care situation, coming in or out or whatever. And there's a lot of bureaucratic things that go on with foster care that puts you in the limelight of a place that I think should stay sacred. I think it is a perfect place to start building an Oahspe community, because that is what, I was there with Elizabeth and Annie when they were first starting it. I know what their goal was. This wasn't it. It's to, and when you bring in foster kids, which is a wonderful aspiration, but I would keep it away from Sacred Winds, because it's almost like bringing in a bad apple can ruin the whole barrel. And when you get these foster kids, they've already been very damaged, and they would not necessarily be conducive to the community life of Sacred Winds. Now, to do a foster care project outside of that is very admirable. And I know somebody who's doing a whole thing where they create houses for the kids that are coming out of foster care because they're really lost. They have nowhere to go. And helping them with creating a business for them so they can pay for their room and board there. And I was involved with that. It's a very Christian organization, of which I've never had an affiliation with Christianity, but it's an admirable, but I think they should be kept separate. What do you think?
Well, it's gonna be a good decision. That's why we do the survey. You know what I mean? I'm opening it up and see what the results are. I think you make good points. And there's always some kind of change. Life is about change. So life is about growth. It's about expansion. It's about reaching those who have not been reached. That's, to me, the whole purpose. One of the purposes of the Oahspe. Great is clear about that. At least my reading and studying of Oahspe over these past 4 decades. So that's just my one point of view. And we're going to have 40 to 50 different points of view. And we're going to just see what the data shows.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because what first thing to me about Oahspe was the whole thing of the community. And so that, to me, that was the most important part. Because I was very deep in community at the time. I was the liaison for all the Northwest communes and communities, and I went from one community to another, and that's how I met Elizabeth and Ann. They had this little community, and so there's an obligation to create a society that is not tainted, never been tainted, never been in a public school, never been through all that, but single parent. And what do we have today more than ever before are single parents that are having babies that have not been tainted. And how are we going to create a new society based on love and peace and harmony and all the things we want? We don't start with the untainted babies. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Anyone else? This is ours, bro. This is something that.
I have a question, it's like, in the progression of it, would it be kind of wise to start with, for the first few years, starting with the older kids, if I want to call them kids anyway, children, by whatever the age is that you can go by, even by the state idea of what what is considered child, the age considered, and as we go forward, so then add on younger and younger, because when you get into really young, it seems like you need even more services connected, or it's like you need, more of the mothering kind of care. So I'm just wondering if we kind of start with the older youth and work back. But I guess what was in this report was the idea of maybe it's the methods, like like you comparing the foster with so on, and the percentages of how close it is to what Oahspe saying, to try and work up into the 96%. We might have to do some of that with the resources and so on that we got, or would can build up in that time. But I think having, the end result in view all the time is really good, because we'd already be established on the right kind of property with the right amenities, the right closeness to the services that are offered by the government, like healthcare, things where if we have emergency and shopping, and having a winding road is just, to me, into sacred lands is just quite a barrier for all kinds of things, like even getting emergency vehicles. You really need more than one lane, because what if there's an accident on the one main road? I mean, and it's already like really risky. You get one kind of windstorm, you've got logs all over the road, you've got to saw them all out even to get someone out who's in an emergency situation. You really need a back entrance, a back road in there that's also equally good, So I think I think there's a whole lot of, things to think about with this. I'm looking forward to seeing all the results of what people are feeling, about the different angles on it and everything. So I think it's a really, and I see, it's, even though I'm in Canada, we still have the same stuff happening here. It all relates, So, anyway, that's one thing I have to say.
Thank you, Jane, for comments. In the beginning, what I was doing way back in the day, with board that was non-fakers, that was the approach. The approach was to work with the older kids, because the policies around infants are enormous. The cost factor is expensive, and that to get them involved, as enrollees, it requires really heavy duty research, because you don't hear the models of so-called orphans now, kids who are orphans. When I actually thanks their school, when I was when she talked about infants, I started looking into infants once again, and foster care has, where do they go? Where do the infants go? And so foster care says that they have emergency placement, want to put them up for adoption. I did a lot of research on adoption early on, and that research, they make more money when they keep the babies than when they give them up for adoption. So there are a lot of mystery that needs to be unpacked, and we don't have enough people who are available to do this kind of quality work. And so back in the day, we had that same plan that you mentioned, Jane, where those who come through the program, those where we have most funding, those where we have most resources that we can afford to pay staff, those who come through the program, there will be a set-aside land, and the set-aside land will be for those who come through the program who wants to embrace it, those who wants to those who wants to be part of the effort. Who's that? Hold on, let me see. That's doing. those who want to be part of the effort to, I mean, those young people come to the program who want to be part of the effort to become faithlists, become students of Oahspe, to live that lifestyle. And those who do, we can coach them. And that way they begin to start the true shalom. As opposed to start with the babies who are being abused, or the single mothers who you gotta really search out for. We will have a control in a sense because they'll be on our property, and we can begin to determine through dialogue, through workshops, through training sessions, through education programs. Even when I get to be 18, we have an open door because at prior to 18, you really can't talk about religion. This is Job Corps very strong on that issue. We can provide opportunity for them to go out to do a worship. But at 18, then they make their own mind. So if those folks after 18 say, well, yeah, I like what you were saying, blah, blah, then we know that they're on the track for becoming a community that is leading to shalom. And that community that I call way back then was called like a village. And we know that those in like a village will be the ones that will be true founders, the true makers of shalom. All we're doing is holding the space. We're really holding the space. So there's different angles, but there's different strategies. The ones going directly through infancy care now at this stage, that's difficult. It's difficult for the funding. It's difficult to get access, and then when you get the funding, you can't keep them unless you're going to adopt them, and that's the only other way. So that was the second phase: is that you get faithers who are willing to adopt the children, but you got to vet them real carefully. This is not, this is real serious stuff, and if they are vetted and they want to stay and live in the community that has good access. Sacred Winds does not have good access to having children, even if they are, infants, even if they are faithfully living there. It's too big. You can't live there in the wintertime. They look at us like we're nuts. We are getting permits and license and all that. We can't, if we put down on the application that we want infants there as a church, we got to substantiate that. Then they're going to ask the question, well, how do you get them to emergency care? Blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of hit and miss. So we need legal advice. We need policy advice. We need all that stuff to really make this work. So that's why we do the survey. And we don't have it.
I'd like to say something about that.
Go ahead.
Because I agree with you. You wouldn't want to have any kind of foster care situation at Sacred Winds. It's just not conducive. But when you invite somebody to live there with their child, their baby, that has nothing to do with the state. There's no regulation. They're just moving there. And so it's not under the same scrutiny. You can have, the single parents, and it's not just mothers, it's fathers that are now single parents as well. And you bring them in, that's a whole different ballgame than trying to take a child out of the children's services system. And I can tell you that is the most corrupt system. It is set up as an adoption system. You say they make more money keeping them in, but they also make money adopting them out. And there's much corruption there. And do we really need to be part of that corruption? But I do feel that to bring children in that are with their parents that just happen to move there, they have nothing to say about that. The state can't regulate that. That's unregulable.
Well, that's not true. When you read the permit, I had to write out the application to get licensed. We're going to be licensed we're licensed as a church, right? So we gotta justify that. And so if there is ever a death or serious injury because we brought a child as a church into a location without access, during the wintertime when the snow can get up to above your knees, how, and you got an emergency situation with your child running a high fever, with adults, you can get away with it. With children, I'm telling you, you can't. That's where the Child Protective Service come in. They will say it's neglect and maltreatment. Read the regs. You know, I've been to all that.
I
And
think
so
what you're saying about that, you know, I mean, if they are in your business,
we got, just a second, Sarah, we gotta be very careful. When you read the records of early Shalom, and Joan has excellent records of that. One of the things that the faithists had in a court of law back in Shalom was they was accused of maltreatment causing the death of infants. And so when you read what the judge had to say, is what the judge looked at is there more death at the Shalom than in the general population for that given period. The only the only thing that caused the faith is not to end up in jail and in prison because of neglect way back then, and it's even worse now, is because that the general population had just as much death as children, a little more actually than those at Shalom. So that those who was bringing charges against faithists because of whatever reason, those charges fortunately did not stick. And we got to be super careful. We are not mainstream. We don't have a mainstream faith. And so once you deal with children, I don't care if it's the mother's child herself. There's many accounts of religious organization that had children living on their compound or their campus or their community, and they went up for criminal charges on neglect. So Sacred Winds is not that kind of place. Sacred Winds is a place for conferences and training retreats and things of that nature. For short periods of time, that's fine. But the UFK had to make a decision, and we are going to the community at large to help us with this decision that needs to be made and see what we can do. I don't know how best else to explain it.
sounds interesting, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. I really appreciate it, Sarah Sue. Anyone else want to have comment? Question?
I could say one more thing.
Yes,
Or on to
sure.
other things. Okay, what I noticed when I worked for the government and they sent us to different, like, sort of workshop thing, being at these sort of trainings, workshop things to improve communication skills and things like that. What I've found and what I've heard echoed after, in the meantime, is we went to the workshops, we thought we learned the material really well, but when we got back to where we were living and our workplace, it's like it never happened. You can't really incorporate it because we're back in the same old mold. It's not like it's felt like trying to start a fire where there's no matches. Nobody to support, to blow on the flame to get it going. You just can't. So I'm worried about, the sort of, if we do solely conferences, retreats is fine, a little different, but even then, I've even heard through, the meditation retreats and things, even from the meditation instructor, your PhD and, meditation basically. But when she got home from these retreats, it was like, couldn't maintain. If she could stay there, then she could maintain the big bonfire flame, keep it going. But to go back to one's old haunts, you can't you lose it. You know what I mean? I don't know, I'm just concerned about that. But if we do a conference and retreat center, I think it really needs, if we do that, it would need to be incorporated with all the rest of it, or in the same on the same land or something, so there's a continuity, a real continuity, and where there's building up of the momentum of all the ideas and the practice of it in life, not just go home and wonder, well, I don't know how to actually put that into action because nobody else here in my office or my house is doing that, It's like it's hard to, you become the old person again. It's like all these people who get released from, in the revolving prison and hospital systems, they're back in the park again, doing the drugs again. It's like once they get released from rehab, the drug rehabilitation, once they go back to their old friends, they're, in a week, they're the same as before. It's like, even though it was a 3-month thing, they're just doing great when they come out, they're totally different, they're back to normal, they're looking great, but I think that this needs to be like, not like these revolving doors where people end up back where they were. It's a growing thing. We need to keep the plant growing in the same place and grow it there. Anyway, let's throw that in the mix.
Okay, good point.
This is Celeste doing.
Yes, Celeste.
So I think as far as working with adults, particularly homeless, adults who struggle with homelessness and drug addiction and other mental health issues, I think the housing first model is really good. And that does require a place that gives each individual their own room and a place that has on-staff, social welfare and on-staff, 24 hours a day, psychiatrists and social workers and stuff. Because, when people when they're at that place where they've been homeless, it's more than just giving them a place to live. And it's more than just sending them to rehab, like Jane was saying. There's a continuation of care that has to happen so can continue to move their life in a trajectory upwards. Yeah. Well, it's more than building confidence, but that's part of it. And just the other thing that I would say, I don't think any child should ever be referred to as a bad apple. And I know that Sir Sue didn't mean it. And the untainted children that kind of really pushed a bunch of my buttons. I think there are other words, that can kind of describe what it is that Faithus and Oahspe are trying to achieve without using that kind of terminology. Because, no child is a bad apple. Thank you, Glenn.
You're very welcome. I want to follow up on that point. In my experience, working with Job Corps in Brooklyn, when I dealt in New York City where I grew up, there's pockets of community. I can't name another place, but in New York, these pockets of community was really quite challenging. So when you get kids from the projects, so like I didn't grow up in the projects, but you get kids in the projects from the Bronx, they have their gang groups and they, from the projects especially the projects in Brooklyn. So usually Brooklyn and the Bronx going head to toe. And sometimes it's the projects in the Bronx, one project in one Bronx, and I guess another project in the other Bronx. So when you got them on Job Corps, you got all of these different communities with their gang mentality. When you work through all of these different processes and training and workshops and fish tanks and there's all of these different types of techniques, and you get exactly what Sylvester is talking about. When you get these so-called bad apples to really be to really step into their full humanity, you reach a stage of, I mean, I got chills just even thinking about it right now, of really joy, of really love among strangers. And they start to unfold, they start to dump, they start to take responsibility because they have an audience for somebody who is caring for them, like they've never been cared for before. And then you got the policies. You got the Department of Labor policies that come in there and they screw everything up. You know, and so there was a point in time with all these different factions on the campus, 200 kids, 16 to 24. Most Job Corps students, when they get the weekend, they want to go home to be with their families or their friends. We had I mean, the staff had that place humming where they didn't want to go home. They said that there's this too safe environment for me right here. They could eat, they had the gym, they had the TV, they got the pool. I mean, it was a living campus. And what did the U.S. Department of Labor, through the Senate director, he wanted to make it difficult. I said to the director, Jose, I said, Jose, wait, don't do that. We can make this a model. The kids don't want to go home because they feel safe. And one of the big issues with Job Corps is safety. There's so many gangs on Job Corps campuses is ridiculous. And so here we got a program that was literally closed down by U.S. Department of Labor, who was the funding and administrator for Job Corps, because of gangs. And now, years later, they never want to leave. So we got to find a way, whatever we decide to do. The mandate in Oahspe is clear: children, children, children. We got to step up to the plate, okay? And that we got to simply find a way to bring them along. That should be the calling. It's shouting out. And anyone who studies the Oahspe culminates basically in the book of Shalem, in the book, Jehovah's Kingdom upon earth, and children. And I found the quotes. I gave you quotes. You can reflect on them, please, in terms of what people should do. Yes, Jacob. Don't forget to unmute.
Yeah. I got a question in the chat here on YouTube. If it's appropriate, then well, but if not, then she wants to know if who should be capable for the death of the faith, the second burial.
I don't quite understand the question.
She wants to know who should bury a faithless.
That's up to the family. Depends on the age of the one who passed. We deal with RFK and UFK. We deal with the spirit of the deceased. Okay, I've been to a lot of funerals. Peter has, and when we do our cases as a body, as the Restoration Faiths of Cosmos groups, we attended a lot of passing people who passed. We go to in Jehovah's name and we meet the person's spirit who has died. And we help that, we facilitate the person's passing into a safe environment in the spiritual world. And we see the person, some of us see the person, we talk to the person, we observe what's going on. It's just another dimension. And we have been doing this for 40 years. So I am, and even my own family members who have died, my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, they go through their, whatever their ritual was, with their family. But when I dealt with them, I just put that on the side. I went to Jehovah and to help them with the transition. And I see what happened in the spirit world. So that would be my response. Peter or Celeste Joy, you may have another response to that. Peter, is it clear?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay. This is not about burial, but this is about childcare and addiction and things of that nature. I've read about addiction. I've grown up around addiction. I know what it is firsthand. Both my mother and father were addicted to drugs when I was growing up. What I can say clearly about addiction is that there is oftentimes possession issues, that when people start doing drugs, they open themselves up, or they may be carrying something from, generational, from a family member, where entities will attach to a person and drive them down the same path so they can continue to live off of the addiction. So I think that, yes, moving somebody out of an environment and keeping them from going back into that environment is definitely a good thing. But also, a lot of spiritual restoration work should be done on people, particularly if they're coming into a program or a community where they're being taken out of that environment. And also with children that grow up in very, very hostile environments, oftentimes due to abuse, emotional or psychological abuse, they end up picking up a lot of those habits and behaviors from the environment, the family members, or whatever they grew up with. And oftentimes, there needs to be restoration work done on them as well. I'm not saying that that's the only thing that should be done, but that, in terms of faith is doing these types of programs, it should also be a consideration, even though I know we can't include that into the program curriculum because of the government getting involved. But it may be something that can be done on the side from a spiritual perspective if there is, a church on the facilities or the property, and, people that are working in that area that are working in the church can facilitate those kind of restorations for people who are in need of that type of work spiritually, which would help them to recover from drugs and also help to, clean up the children, because oftentimes you can get children who may be innocent, but still because of something that the parents have done, may be carrying something generational with them that would cause them to go down the same road as their parents. So that's just something to consider. What do you think?
I need to respond. I want quickly to you, Danny, but I need to get back to Yakwa and the question to make sure that the answer was, it's the feedback from the answer to the inquiry. But to what you just said, that is the restoration faith is model, as you well know. And that we work behind the scenes, we work in the spirit world to facilitate the removal of what we call anti-Jehovah, hot forces, etc. That will not stop. That's one of the, that's why RFK and UFK is so closely tied. And so some of the models, some of the features of the models are there. If we are spiritual beings on a short human journey, then that's my model. And so therefore, there's a lot of unsavory entities that wants to do us wrong. So that we need to have a intervention. There's a great study that anybody knows about, a great study that the Buddhists did this exactly the same approach in Washington, D.C. I documented that study. It's called the FBI study. And, that's part of the name. Anyway, everybody want to have a real case study of how this was effective? Don't take my word for it. This is a case study that involved the FBI, and it was quite impressive what these folks would do just with meditation, so-called meditation. Yeah, I gotta get back to Yakko. The person that was asking the question was how did the person respond? Did they want more information or less information? Let me get them.
She gave thanks for the response,
Okay.
so I guess it was
All right,
good enough for her.
good, thank you. Yes, Damien.
No, I was just gonna say to Sarah Sue and to anybody else who's interested, there's a book called Prisoners of the Earth. And it has a really, really good model of restoration work, and it has many, many different examples of how people were freed and restored from addiction issues and even some mental health issues. Because a lot of it was because of entities or spirits that were attached to them. They even have some examples of, I believe, children at very young ages having entities attached to them and causing all kinds of problems with the child development. So, just food for thought.
Yeah, that's a great book.
That's something too, Damien, because I agree with you 100%. That is, that's a, wonderful observation. As Dr. Carl Wickman said, 90 to 95% of anyone that is in the mental hospitals, and a lot of those are, addiction and other problems, are from entities and possession. The other thing that I wanted to bring up that you said that was really clear is that when children observe this from a baby, the addiction, the abuse, it's what they learn because they are only functioning in delta and theta. Theta, they do not come into their conscious mind until 6 to 7 years old, which is alpha and then beta. And because of that, they are recording everything in their environment. And that is how they learn. So if they're seeing the abuse, that's what they're learning. If they're, and so I know someone who was beating on his girlfriend that was pregnant, and he told me personally, he watched his father beat his mother and at 3 years old, and he knows it's wrong, but he can't stop himself because it's embedded into his being at the theta state. And there is a therapy, and what I would consider, what I think would be great, is to incorporate certain energy medicines where you actually go in with, and it's called Psych K. It's what Dr. Bruce Lipton says is the best one out there for reprogramming, because some of them, they get a lot of who they are before they're 6 years old. They have those messages, I'm not good enough, and all the messages they get in their subconscious mind before they're 6 to 7.
Yeah.
And so how are we going to deal with that? It's not just the restoration, because it's like you cannot go to a cassette player and scream edit. You have to go back and go back to where you first laid the tracks and then record over it. And that's what Psych K does, and that's Psych, PSYCH, and I don't think there's an E on it, but I'm not sure, -K.com. And it is a history where they do go back to those where it was first laid, and then they laid the tracks over it. Bruce said it's the best thing he's ever done.
There's a doctor named, I read this book, John Bradshaw's Homecoming. And I read that book.
I had all of his whole thing. I had a whole collection of tapes from him years ago.
So that but what I was saying, I was not saying to rely strictly on the restoration model. I was saying, because a lot of times, what I have found is that, if there's an imprint in the psyche that needs to be rewritten, yes, that is definitely true. There are other modalities. What I was saying is that the restoration work to be done is to be done in tandem with the other modalities. Because because entities will still try to come in and attach, but the person has to be built up in a more positive manner and aspect in their psychological makeup so that they no longer are prone to those types of attachments. And it's,
Mhm.
so that's, yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah, same page, good discussion. It's now, almost 11 o'clock. Okay, anyone else has the final word?
Hey, Damien, what do you mean by built up? If you can summarize what you meant by that.
Well, building up, it's kind of like if there's a restoration cleansing done on a child that's very young, let's say 6 or 7 years old, right? And then after the cleansings have been consistent, and this can happen with teenagers and adults as well. You have to also work with the psychological and the emotional makeup of the individual. You have to start, it's basically kind of like reconstructing the psychological makeup of the person. And as Sarah Sue said, kind of like rewriting the emotional and psychological history of the person. And the earlier that it starts, the better it is, because because children follow a developmental stage, they follow stages of development. So you literally have to go catch them at the stage of development that they're at and begin to work in that stage and kind of put them back in alignment so that the next stages of development, all depending on the environment that they're in, which would not be what they grew up in, but those stages of development would begin to take on a normal set of standards for the development, because they would then be in an environment where their needs are basically being met at the emotional and psychological level that they're supposed to be on. And then when you're incorporating the spiritual work on top of that, you are continuously reinforcing the positive while trying to remove the negative, so that as they develop, the strength of character and emotional makeup becomes even stronger, so that they can develop more into a normal adult person. I hope that explained it.
Okay, good stuff. Good cross communication.
I'm sorry, I was talking, but I was muted. I just wanted to say something on top of what Damien said that is so important, is that often this happens in the womb. And if you have a child that was not wanted in the womb, and had bad nutrition in the womb, and was addicted, if the parents were addicted, whatever the situation was, if that child was not in a situation like my grandmother said when she was pregnant, you should only think good thoughts, and she wanted her kids to be musicians. She took them to concerts, or when she was pregnant, she would go to symphonic concert and play symphonic music in the home. And both of her children were born with perfect pitch. And they're 16 years apart. And that's 1 in a million. Well, that's the importance of, the reason I mention it is the importance of what happens in the womb. So it's going back further than just birth. And I'm sorry about my comment about the bad seed. And I think it was misunderstood. Some of these kids, and I can tell you, some kids that are adopted, no matter what happens, they still have that influence that was bad in the womb, from not feeling wanted, or whatever the situation was. And that doesn't get dealt with. And that does turn them into a certain type of being. That would be part of the restoration, but that needs to be part of the understanding of the restoration.
Good stuff. Okay, it's 11. I need to eat. I didn't eat all day today. I've been working all day today. So I want to thank everybody for your participation and for your input. I'll try to get these surveys out by the end of next week, because it's going to take a lot of coordination. And remember, next week is the healing circle. It is not any topic other than that. Ms. Jane is the facilitator, just a monitor, if you will. So we will have that. We will continue with our discussion as we move forward and see what the results are. Thank you much, and everybody have a great day. Great evening.
Okay, and thank you, Brian.